and I thank you all for your patience and cooperation in this regard. This would include free movement in and out based on everyone's comfort levels. So please feel free to go ahead and step outside if required. Thank you, Madhu, for being here today. Thank you so much.
Much gratitude.
I commend you for being brave, honest, and for putting your story out there, Madhu. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
As you all know, we're here to discuss Madhu's book. I'm not going to elaborate too much because Madhu is going to talk to us about the book. But this is her first launch in Chennai, her hometown. So one round of applause for Chennai. So let me begin by asking you, Madhu, why did you decide to document your experiences and life lessons in a book?
Yeah. So first of all, Upasana said not to write notes, to speak from my heart. I said I have to write some notes. So big thank you just to Chennai, and never in a million years did I think I'd write a book, and never in a million years did I think I would launch it in Chennai. And with such an immediate family like Upasana, and we have met an editor and publisher as well. So it all just came together really, really well. I have my immediate family here, my mother and a lot of our relatives. And I see all of you as my extended family too. So why did I decide to write the book? As I had my daughter when I was 23. I was married when I was 21. And she was our first child. And as many of youngsters, I was also a very ambitious, feisty youngster. And to have this child in our lives, and she had a brain infection when she was born, and the life just spiraled. I think as all of us do, we go through the motions, we fight when we need to, we cry when we need to, and we take care of things when we need to. She's 37 years old, and she lives in a home for disabled adults in the USA. So as her life evolved, our lives evolved, as the life got tougher, it really dawned on me that there was something very special about her journey. That in her honor I should write, but just not really in her honor, because she represented and she represents the whole special needs ecosystem. I'll apologize if there are different terms used these days, differently able, special needs. I'm just using special needs, so bear with me for that. So that was really the driver. As the years went on and her journey became very hard, I just wanted to document it, chronicle it, in her honor and in honor of the entire special needs community. You will see that the book is very short. I don't believe in writing 400 pages. It's got a lot of pictures, real life pictures, and it's about 20 chapters, and each chapter represents from the start to where where she is today. So thank you again for the first question, and again I just wanted to chronicle a journey in honor of the entire special needs ecosystem.
Thank you so much, Madhu. So I'm going to read bits and parts of the book. The child Sitara does not know how effective and influential she has been by bestowing upon us a lifetime of love, learnings, and resilience. We sincerely feel that she has been more effective than some of the world's best teachers and scriptures. So Madhu, can you share how what you have learned is more effective? Is it because it was a real life lesson?
Yeah, I believe so. I think real life lessons and personal experiences are always more effective than reading about others or watching a movie. There can be a lot of value in that too. This weekend, as I was living in Chennai, I'm experiencing the cyclone for the first time in 4 decades. It was a different experience than watching it on video and watching the news. And much like that, like this weekend, I was scared, I was impressed, I was considering myself fortunate to have a roof over my head, all of that, and admiring the resilience of the people and the city. I don't think I would have felt this way if I was just watching the news and the videos. So I think real life experiences are akin to on-the-job training versus going through a simulated training or a training module. The learnings from every single experience with our daughter and every special needs child, I feel, is like a shot of IV in your arm, and it's not just a tablet or a vitamin that you take. And beyond that, I think there is truly an important aspect to value the real-time experience. We embrace it, we accept it, we digest it, we practice it. So I will say that it has been a real blessing to write or chronicle those real-life experiences. And while doing that, I was reliving each of those little experiences throughout her life to recall. I just felt that all of that made the writing experience itself very cathartic, and people call it authentic, and that was really the objective behind it.
That's wonderful, and it takes a lot of courage, Madhu,
Yeah.
to relive, certain things and document it. So I can't imagine how that process was for you.
Absolutely.
So in the book you say, the why not us is the most profound sentiment as it brings together the full acceptance of special needs and all its merits and challenges imbibed into the lives of such parents. So tell me, Madhu, you talk about full acceptance.
Yeah.
Is it truly possible?
Yeah, so I write about, which I think we all feel, even for little things and not just having a child, the challenge is why us? It's easy to be very ideal and say why not us, but I do think every special needs family embraces the why not us over time. Is it truly possible to accept? And I was thinking about the question. This is not about 100% acceptance. You are never at 100% acceptance. I do say that full acceptance is not possible. And yet each of us can define what our acceptance is. I'm a CFO by profession, I work with numbers. So if you think about, if you are at a less than 50% acceptance, I think what happens in the gap is you are always expending your energy to the negativity associated with the cards you've been given to play. So the acceptance has to be somewhere high. Is it 80%, is it 90%? We can all evaluate, but the closer it is to 100%, knowing it will never be 100%, it releases a whole bunch of energy to just being very constructive, action-oriented, productive. It's all about the child and what the child needs, right? And I think it's very important to shift that energy over there. I'll share a small story as I was preparing to write the book. One of my very dear friends who has a daughter, and the daughter's been in a wheelchair since birth, I was telling her I'm going to write the book, do you have any perspectives to share? And she said, so Madhu, who are you writing it for? She said, who wants to read our sob story? So that was a very harsh comment, but it really gave me direction for the book. I wasn't going to be a cheerleader in the book, but I was going to be one with gratitude. Because that's that 10%, right? Where you think about all the hardships of your child, gratitude to the medical profession, gratitude to the administrators, gratitude to the teachers, and we'll talk more about who lifts you up and who does not lift you up. All of that is true, but I do think it is important to spread that gratitude, which I can tell you, it recycles itself into hope and resilience back into the journey. Our daughter's 37 years old, I'm 60 years old, so again, it wasn't full acceptance, but it was high enough to the full that released the energy to do everything we need to do.
Wonderful, that's really wonderful. And again, I'm quoting from Madhu's book where she says, you may well achieve all you aspire to, or you may achieve in different ways or at different times as you replace resentment, sacrifice, and compromise with creativity, leverage, and opportunities. So Madhu, according to me, being a parent, just a parent is hard enough. Tell us how you did this, fulfill aspirations and have a successful career.
No, thank you. Those are big words, huh?
Yeah.
I actually wrote them. And look, I say this very humbly. I've been pursuing a career in finance for also 35 years. And her name is Sitara. I should have actually mentioned that. I got my first job after finishing my MBA when she was 2 years old. And I do remember when she was a baby, so she's blind. She was diagnosed with blindness when she was born, along with a whole bunch of brain infections. So I do remember when she was a baby, I would go to the parent groups. And I literally was the only parent who had these career aspirations. And I could feel a pinch of guilt. And the other mothers were no less qualified than I was. And I could see they all had made the decision that they were going to support the child and compromise on their career. So I did my MBA when she was 2 years old. I started my first job, and it's been sort of non-stop. I do think it's a few things that having a special needs child, or as you said, any parent, again, it's people's choices. I do want to be very clear, and everyone, I respect the choices. But it doesn't have to be a control alt delete. It doesn't have to be a screeching halt. of what you would otherwise want to do. And that's really what I would like to stand up and say. And my comment in the book really means whether you decided to be a full-time CFO and a finance career for 35 years, or you decided to do something part-time, or you decided to take a break and come back into, the fundamental point is it doesn't have to be a screeching halt. There are so many lessons from the special needs world that comes into your daily life, and we can talk more about it. I do want to pay tribute to two very important people. I've dedicated one chapter of the book to Pati, and everybody in Chennai will associate with that. Yes, Sitara had two parties. My mom is here in the front row, and her paternal grandmother came to live with us when Sitara was 2 years old, and she lived with us for 28 years. So I dedicate my career to her. Thank you. And most importantly, some of the lessons and learnings I would like the world to take from her chapter is she gave unconditional love, of course, but she also gave unconventional love. And you'll read that in the book that she was instrumental, notwithstanding Sitara had excellent medical care, she was instrumental for Sitara to go from G-tube feeding to oral, to sort of throat feeding to eating orally. And Pati had unconventional methods of giving her upper arm, to see if she can actually chew and bite. So the lesson I would like to share on that is, again, I dedicate my career to both of them, the unconventional, the creativity that she gave. And the last thing I'd say is, it has to come from within. If you're a mother or a father of a special needs family and you really want to pursue a career, there are ways to do it. And let the gift of the special needs child fuel the person to go do it.
Brilliant, absolutely. Madhu, if there was one thing you could advise abled or neurotypical, and I say this with quotes, normal parents, what would it be?
Yeah.
Since you're abled and like me,
Yes. So we have two boys, Adarsh and Kailash, and we've dedicated a chapter to each one of them. I wrote the chapter on Adarsh. As you all know, Adarsh means ideal. God bless him. He's truly an ideal sibling to Sitara. And Kailash, I was brave enough. I met a mother here who had her second child when she was 43. I had my youngest child when I was 40. I was very brave. And the vision there was Adarsh, the older sibling, was continually experiencing the challenges of his sister throughout his childhood. He would be in the neurosurgical ward playing Lego when Sitara was going through a multi-day surgery, right? That was his life, and I always felt that we needed a backup. The youngest one's name is Kailash. I call him a backup kid. I said, you are the backup kid. So two able siblings, and Sitara, of course, my husband and myself. It would often dawn on me that you don't have to have a special needs child in order to appreciate the normalcy of life. I think the wisdom in life is you feel so grateful for everything normal, right? And oftentimes we complain about the normalcy. So I think the one thing I would say is that you don't have to have a special needs child to appreciate enormously the normalcy that you find in abled families. The other side, there's plenty of research done on this. A lot of the education framework of the abled community came from learning from the special needs community, right? And that's a fact. And maybe the last thing I'll say is every time you're an abled person and you intersect with the special needs, whether you're a sibling or your parent or your nephew or an aunt or your uncle or a grandparent, I think we're obligated to carry that to the rest of the world. Because as abled individuals, we can do that much more in the special needs.
Very true, very true. I agree. Thank you. Another topic I think I often struggle with, Madhu, is how do you sensitize children? How would you advise parents on that from a young age?
Yeah. So I'll say this is a bit of a fuzzy, intangible comment, which is I think the way we live our lives, the way we live our families, the children will become sensitized. And I'm ready to bet on this that siblings and friends of siblings of special needs children are sort of naturally sensitized. Two incidents you'll read in my book. When our older one, Adarsh, was in elementary school, we got a call from his teacher home. Those days teachers do call instead of chatting and emailing. And she said, we were reading about Helen Keller today in class, and your son raised his hand and he said, he has a blind sister. Is that true? I was really touched. I said, yes, it is true. And how did a young boy of 7 or 8 years old have the courage to raise his hand in class and say, I have a blind sister, right? I think some of it does come very, very naturally. He did face bullying. Some of his friends would tease Sitara. And we actually have a quote in the book. He would look at his neighborhood friends and he would say, I'm not going to be friends with you if you make fun of my sister, right? And Kailash's college essay was about his sister. And maybe the last thing I'll say is think about Sitara being a special needs high school student in a large high school, thousands of able normal kids going to Ivy League schools, and I talk about this in my book too. And my husband and I are sitting in the bleachers for her high school graduation. She is a special needs child. Name is Ranganathan, last of the alphabets. We're waiting in the hot weather, and Sitara is sitting there with her cane in hand, waiting for her name to be called. And she was our first child graduating high school, and Ranga and I, my husband and I, were sitting on the bleachers saying, what are we doing here? That kid is going to MIT, this kid is going to Stanford. Here we are, waiting for Sitara to collect her diploma. We were very negative parents that afternoon. I'm going to take a tissue saying this. When her name was called, the entire school stood up. The entire school stood up. Thank you.
And you may not be able to see too much, but that's her at her graduation, Sitara.
Yeah. So that was 2007, and if you ask me when did I think about writing a book, I cut that piece of paper in the local newspaper and I saved it. I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I just saved it. So it was a little bit of a nice slap in the face for my husband and I. That afternoon, we were so negative. And when she stood up, she took a cane, she walked to collect her diploma. So back to the sensitizing questions. Thousands of high school kids saw this girl for 4 years walking with her cane around the high school. And when her name was called, no matter what great universities they were going to go to, they felt obligated to stand up and acknowledge, right? So I think children of any age naturally have that sensitization in them. I think we do want to keep creating the small family environment, the bigger school environment, the broader societal environment, where all things may not be rosy, but we do want to keep creating those, but I sincerely believe children have it in them naturally.
They do. That's very true. I so agree with that. So Madhu, again in the book you say, in other words, dependency or at best interdependency is normal in human beings. A good life then depends on caring solidarity in which families, neighbors and local services are interconnected to provide the necessary support needed. So please share, Madhu, with me what you feel the difference between sympathy and empathy is and how important you think it is.
Yeah, that kind of jogged my thinking a bit, so I'm sure for all of you as well. Yeah. Look, I think empathy involves feeling what another person feels. I think sympathy, again, my definition, we can all go to ChatGPT and all of that stuff, but my definition is, sympathy is having that empathetic attitude towards someone without being emotionally involved, right? You express sympathy and you could express genuine sympathy. I do think empathy is the way to go. And as you asked about the question of sensitization, I think empathy is very, very important. I wrote the chapter on community and the societal on the dependency for the following reason. We always look at the special needs community as being dependent. I think a lot of us normal people are also dependent. We are dependent on transportation, we are dependent on science, we're dependent on many, many, many things. So the word dependency is sometimes really associated with the special needs, and I did want to make a point there as we're all dependent. But I do think our dependency, your friends, your community, your book club, right, and your Rotary Club, all of that, those are great community involvement for normal people, and we don't call them dependencies. But when it comes to special needs, we call them dependencies. So I did want to start socializing that aspect of we're all a very interdependent community, whether you're special needs or otherwise, and how you reach out with solidarity to support each other is going to be really, really important. And the topic of empathy and sympathy are very interconnected. And you asked about children and sensitization. I think empathy is very long term. It really gets to the bottom of your heart to feel how you are feeling about this. And it may not be equal, but I do think empathy is the way to go.
True, very true. So Madhu, several times in the book you've written the word "and" in capital letters. Okay, she refers to "and." So I want you to tell us a little what you mean by this "and."
Yes. So part of the reason dawned on why I would want to write the book, and I say this very, very humbly. I stand up when I'm 60 years old. Sitara's 37. Our boys are doing well, and I was telling another person talking outside. My husband and I haven't been divorced. We're coming up on 39 years of our anniversary. So again, I go back to any illness, whether special needs or otherwise, makes us think that life has come to a screeching halt. That your sugar levels go up, you have a chronic disease, right? Again, go back and visualize, there's this 23-year-old woman and the first child, right? It's called congenital toxoplasmosis, a brain infection. As I mentioned, my first parent group, the women were actually going to drop their careers and move. So the concept of "and" really evolved with me. It has to be an "and." If my husband and I go play tennis, and we have Sitara sitting in the stroller. We would always have events with Sitara included, right? Not always was it pretty. And pursuing a career. There were times when my career was going crazy, or sometimes my husband's career was going crazy. And I have a chapter in there for dads, right? Because I did want to make a point about dad's role in there. There's a few times when my husband has been in the operating room, I have been in the office. So the concept of "and" I think is really, really important. So that we move away from the Control-Alt-Delete and life is not a screeching halt. And a lot of you families, I'm not here to sit and preach, you practice this every day, right? You might have a child who's having a seizure on the pavement, and you deal with it, you pick it up, and you may have an appointment, you drive to it, you walk to it, right? You just have an appointment with the doctor and you go back and take your conference call, or you go have a social event, and sometimes it's very hard. But I do think the benefits of "and" are enormous. I think the benefits also accrue to the child. I think if we were all solely, singularly, unilaterally involved in only the caretaking of the child, I don't think we would do full justice to the child. And going back to what Upasana read earlier, anyone should pursue to whatever extent on the "and" that they want to, but the "and" in small font, in medium font, or large font is going to be, I think very valuable.
Thank you so much. So Madhu, this is something I feel and have experienced, that siblings of special needs children are often overlooked.
Yep.
And I always stress this importance to whoever I can to make sure this is not done. So how do you manage this aspect with Adarsh and Kailash?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, very, very blessed to have both the boys, and in the community they do a lot. So just to kind of fast forward, Sitara lives in a home for disabled adults in California, and the home is run by an agency called Life Services Alternatives. My husband serves on the board of the home, of the agency, so we do have what we can give back to the community, right? And my husband is a runner. He organizes an annual run where the special needs individuals participate, right? The normal individuals also participate. And we joke about it at home. It's non-negotiable at home. We do have to go and volunteer. The boys have no choice, right? I say it's non-negotiable, but they look forward to doing it. And for Kailash, who goes to college nearby, he has to come in on a Friday, volunteer at the run on a Saturday, then go back to college on Sunday, right? It's just kind of the way it is. So I think it's important to integrate the siblings into the special needs. Sitara has some quirks. She knows where her brothers work or where her brothers study. She's very attuned to them. And they too play around with her from the beginning, right? I'm getting into a very detailed aspect here. Adarsh would take care of Sitara quite a bit. And given all her sort of medical situations, she didn't go through normal puberty. But as a God would be willing, he was the first one who observed she had her period. He was actually helping her change her clothes in the bathroom. And then he came back and said, Akka doesn't look normal, right? So again, I never hesitated to use them to help in many, many different ways, whether it's physical care or just kind of a conversational care or walking with them, all of that. If she's in the hospital, and she's been in the hospital multiple times, they will be right there with her. They know how to operate a wheelchair and all of that. So I do think, especially, at the same time, both of them are doing well on their own accord, right, and their sports and all of that. So I don't think it's hard to integrate, but I do want to leave all of us, as you're talking to other families, it's a mindset. I think it starts with a mindset that you want them together, and you don't want them separate. You do have some separate activities, it's not always possible, but it's really the mindset that they give her the food first before they eat, and they know how to make her food. It's interesting, she would cull the mint to the strawberries, and they would go ask her, do you need help? She says, come, be teamwork with me, because she doesn't want to do the work. So it's a very normal relationship in many ways, right? So I do think that integration aspect is very, very important, so that the normal siblings do achieve their full potential, right? But I do think in interaction with the special needs, they would end up doing a lot more good to the world through their experiences with the child.
It definitely, that experience is unparalleled. I mean, I think there's no university or book that can teach a special needs sibling what they learn hands-on.
Absolutely.
So that's something different. So again, Madhu, you say the abled world. When she says the abled world, she means the non-special needs community. We are not supposed to use the word normal anymore. At least that's what my daughter tells me. So I like this word. The abled world owes a lot of its learnings to the special needs community. Yet it is not frequently spoken about or propagated. Every special needs family has more learnings accruing to the abled members of that family. So Madhu, tell me, do share one of the learnings that you mentioned here.
Yeah, so what I do talk about in the book, and I think I would say every member associated with special needs will probably tell you this, and I say this with a lot of conviction. Thank you, Mom, for raising me, but I am who I am because of my daughter. She's really curated who I am. She's curated every bit of who I am. My husband will tell you the same thing. My sons will tell you the same thing, that the learnings from her. In what way, right? If you read the chapter that our youngest son wrote, Kailash, he's a Gen Z child, and he speaks about how he's learned more from his sister's silence than he's learned from her activities. He used to play music, and he says he would just keep her next to him as he does his homework. And in reflection, as he's getting older, he says, I learned so much more from her silence. She bounces back massively. I don't even know the number of surgeries she's had, maybe 24 in her life. And every time she bounces back. And as she bounces back, we all reflect on not to complain about little things at all. And the last thing I'll say is I did ask her, as I was writing this book, what I should be writing about. And she said, oh, you can write about my home. I said, what else should I write about? And she said, oh, you can write that at Go to the Day program. I said, what else should I write about? I said, what about all those hospital visits you had? And she goes, okay, you can write about them. So again, because of her condition, she's had no clear memory of the hundreds of visits she had and the 24 surgeries she's had. So that was a big takeaway for us. And I know I do it. If I have a little knee pain, I'm talking about it 100 times, right? So the fact that she could not recall, or she does not make a big deal out of those excruciating surgeries, all of that, it was a big learning for us, right? And we've had hundreds of those learnings throughout her life and ours.
Hundreds, I'm sure.
Yes.
Many more. We can write another book, I'm sure.
No, one book is enough.
So, Madhu, you mentioned community and support systems, which I think is wonderful in the States. India is a little different world, I think, compared to the States. Did you ever feel let down by anyone, and how did you deal with it?
Yeah. So I was very conscious about that when I wrote the book, in terms of community and the framework of support. I have a large vision for the book. I would like to get it translated into other languages and Spanish, of course. And the objective really is to place it in the hands of every family with special needs, with the spirit of giving hope and inspiration. So I would say there are many, many times you are let down, and I speak about that in the book. But it's important to look at those letdowns as not you have been let down, but a crack in the system, the lack of awareness, more work needs to be done, right? That's sort of how we've taken it. And I would add to it to say, every leader here who has a similar situation, you'll see me fighting very hard in the book. I share some examples. You'll see me questioning very qualified doctors why they're taking certain decisions on certain matters. And that is what I leave you with, that you are each the best advocate for your child in every situation. But you cannot work without the community of support. So whether you're in India or in Europe or in the United States, right, you have to work with the community. I do think there's a very psychological aspect I'll leave you with. You'd rather be grateful for the good things you got that can let you deal with the number of letdowns you have. So I do think, again, I'm an accountant, debits and credits, right? So you'd rather accumulate the credits of the gratitude you feel throughout, because that contributes to the positive energy. Many people will let you down, perhaps intentionally and perhaps not. And one example I'll give you with was when we were ready to put her in a home, her concierge, so to speak, of 25 years, put a roadblock in that process. And they pretty much said, no one should take Sitara because she is 24-hour nursing care, she's this, she's that, right? And then you just have to step back and say, oh Lord, how did this happen, right? And we fought through that. And I have an incident I talk about where I literally told the doctors that if you don't send her to that hospital and you send her to this hospital, I'm going to sue your ass off. So if you want to go to court, please send her here. If not, please send her there, right? And so again, be the jerk, be the beast when you have to be. Be the humble, grateful parent when you have to be. And be the collaborative person with the system when you have to be. But I do think it's a blend of all of those.
Very true. I always thought even my claws can come out anytime. You have seen that.
Yes.
So I'm going to read a little bit about self-care. It's important for both parents to take care of themselves, maintain their well-being and effectiveness to be that well-deserving advocate your child needs. So Madhu, I cannot stress the importance of this for any kind of parent. In fact, one of my favorite, I remember telling a friend, put yourself on the list. And she said, what list? I said, the list of life, you know. You can't pour from an empty cup. And even in aircrafts we hear that put your own oxygen mask on before helping others. So please share with us, Madhu, your experience with burnout, you know, demotivation.
Yeah. So, whether it's just a fate of destiny that I'm sitting here healthy in front of you after 37 years with my daughter, right? I'll take that fate of destiny all day long. I'm not going to sit here and lecture to you saying that we were very, very perfect all along the way. But I do think we had a mindset, a whole family. We had a mindset that even if she's in the hospital, my husband would go for a jog for 1 hour, I'll take care of her. I'll go for a walk for 45 minutes, he'll take care of her. So that sort of the wellness was always integrated into our lives. As I said, over time, we started to organize events around all of this. But coming back to kind of the basic thing, right? So the wellness was always integrated. It's very easy to feel fatigued, burned out, and run down because taking care of these situations are just very, very emotionally debilitating and physically exhausting, right? I remember one time she was at Stanford and I said I'll go for a jog or walk, and the whole medical diagnosis was so horrible. I remember walking or jogging or whatever, and I just sat down on the road and I was sobbing. That's okay. And then you just come out of it and you just move on, right? It comes back to the sort of resilience factor. As I said, you cry when you need to, you scream when you need to. But at the center of all of that, putting on your oxygen mask is very, very important first. And I know of parents, mothers, fathers who start like lifting weights, they start strength training because now they have to lift the child, and now they have to push the wheelchair, right? All of that. But I do think there's tremendous amount of importance to this, and all it takes, whether, as you said rightly, whether you have a child, you have a able child, or you have a special needs child, we all have one body to take care of, and we have one life to live. So, making that a priority is superbly important, especially if you're the caregiver. You need probably 10 times more energy than the person you're giving care to. That's how I would say.
Very true. I so agree with that. I so agree. I do fault at times, but I do consciously try to keep self-care
sure thing.
in my mind.
And by the way, I'm sorry, like Sitara would sometimes ask her, oh, did you go for your run today? Right? So it's sort of very, very integrated.
That's lovely. So in the book you also say, Madhu, we miss Sitara's... Okay.
Oh, welcome.
Hello.
Okay, thank you.
So you say, we miss Sitara's daily dry humor. We don't know what she is thinking at any moment. There's always that zone of nothingness as we long to do some activities with her. So again, as parents, Madhu, how vital is it to keep the fun side of you alive? In my own life, I know there are times I feel overwhelmed, but what really cheers me up is making my son laugh. There are certain things I would say that, he'd just start cracking up.
Absolutely.
So.
And look, a lot of what we do are special, but a lot of the reactions, humor of the special needs children are even more special, and that's why I made it a point to sort of highlight. It's very hard to assess what they're thinking, and so on. Two things over there. Our daughter has slowed down, and we don't know where she is biologically, age-wise. She is 37, but she's really slowed down. Her spirits, her energy. She had a sepsis attack 2 years ago, and since then she's really kind of slowed down. But she still has that wonky humor, saying, do you want to do this yourself, or do you want teamwork? She'll choose teamwork because she doesn't want to do it. So that itself is a bit of a sense of humor for us, right? And many of you who know, like the Harry Potter and so on, if her older brother says Avada Kedavra, she would listen and not even react. So they do have that sense of humor with them. But I'll tell you, the two boys really kept the sense of humor for us. Any interaction they have with her is always humorous and on the jest side, and which keeps us alive as well. The last thing I would say is, these are all normal children. She does have attributes of my paternal grandfather. I'm like, how did that come about, right? We'll all be eating, and she'd shut the light off and go. And that's what our grandfather used to do. So
I think everyone's grandfather
used to do, right?
I used to put off the lights.
Yeah, and since I have a finance career, this is just hilarious. She would ask me how my board meeting went. My mother is very religious. I'm not as religious, and I don't generally go into the prayer room regularly. And that day, someone said, "Oh, where's mom?" And Sitara goes, "She's in the prayer room because she's a board meeting." So I think it is very, very important to have the jest. It just keeps it alive.
But that's so perceptive of her to know you
Very
went to the
perceptive.
prayer room for a board meeting.
Right.
That's amazing.
I had to ask the God something.
That's lovely though. So Madhu, you say, Sitara will be the child who will never know how much she has curated the human in me. Is this the line that the title comes from?
Yeah, thank you. People have often asked me how long did it take me to write the book. Maybe I'll just expand on that if you don't mind. As I said, as she grew with us and our life evolved, I really thought I had to write. So I wanted to write for almost 10 years, and it really hit me that she has no idea the impact she's had. So the title I had in my head for 10 years, I just never put the pen to paper, The Child Who Never Knew. And then we were going to Africa for a vacation. I live a very busy life in my career, right or wrong. And then I told my family I'll come if I could write. So I wrote to the airport lounge, I wrote to the safari, and again, as I said, I would never write a 400-page book and torture the readers. So it's only 100 pages. It's 20 chapters, but every one of the chapters was sort of, curated by my family, their participation by my brother, my husband, the sons, all of them. But I would just attribute the title to very heartfelt feeling that she has no idea how much she's impacted us. So the title was The Child Who Never Knew.
Lovely, it's lovely to
Yeah, thank you.
So, again you say, difficult roads lead you to beautiful destinations. Now, this is a decision that even I haven't been able to wrap my head around, but I will. And I know I have a support system who keeps telling me, and I know they'll finally push me to do it. So, do share with us your experience in finding the right home for Sitara and how, like, some North Star pointed it out to you and you knew that was the right one.
Yeah. So that's probably the most the most touching of the experiences, right? And I can speak to it because our daughter's 37. If your child is 20 or 14, you're still thinking about it. So the biggest question for all of us, which is really not there in the abled community, is will I outlive my child or will my child outlive me? And there have been many moments I've prayed and I've said, please take me the minute after you take her. Right? Is that thought that always comes in your mind. Practically speaking, I have to thank my husband. He was the force behind, we have to find a long-term solution for her, all of that. The chapter is called Emotions, Explorations, and the Ultimate Letting Go. I want to write it that way because I don't have the authority, but I want to give permissibility to all parents to explore. It's the hardest decision you would think. I've had many conversations with my husband saying, no, we're never going to let her out of the house. And I'll get an apartment and she and I will live together forever. So I think it's important for every parent. If you're the type of parent who's already made a decision, you're comfortable, please go ahead, kudos to you. If you're the parent who's unable to make those decisions and you want to explore, I want to share my exploration journey. I was looking for homes in India. My dad was then alive. I remember him telling me, like, are you crazy? You're not going to get the Sitara 6,000 miles away. Why are you wasting your time? But I just want to explore, keep exploring, right? I think every exploration gets you closer to the decision that you're destined to make and the decision your child is destined to have. That's really why I titled the chapter Emotions, Explorations, and the Ultimate Letting Go. She has been in the home for about 8 years now. Things are going well, but we're very engaged with the community, with the home and the caretakers, all of that stuff. I know India environment is very different, and I don't want to sit here preaching about it, but I would say though, perhaps strive hard and be the force that provides a direction for these children in the future. That's how it was in the United States 50 years ago, 30 years ago. The institutional homes were abolished and then individual homes were given permission to start. But coming back to the emotional side, I do think the proverbial question is, will I outlive my child or will my child outlive me? And I think it's a very, very normal, acceptable question. As able people, we just have to translate that into a strategy, action, and hopefully solutions.
Wonderful, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Madhu. Any questions from the audience, please? If you can just raise your hand, we send a mic to you. Anyone? Right here. I think you have to put that mic on, beta, just check.
The school that Sitara went to,
Yeah.
was it is it specially focused on her disability, or was it a school with combined children from other disabilities also?
Yeah, it's a great question. It was a normal school. It was a very high academics achieving school, and they had a special ed program like many schools have here in terms of inclusion. And you know, I don't know if you can all relate to this. I always found that she was one of a kind. I think every special needs parent happens to be that disability is one of a kind. So yes, she was blind and there was no other blind children. She needed Braille, no one else was reading Braille, right? So it always seems to happen that your child disabilities seems to be another ice cream flavor to add to the pool as opposed to joining other ice cream flavors, right? Yeah.
But there must have been certainly comparative issues, with the other learning children.
Yeah, behaviors.
Yeah,
behaviors.
Learning standards and all that.
And learning
I
standards,
want
yeah.
to know broadly, are there schools also specially reserved for children with special needs?
Yeah, I think there are. I would just say, again, I'm not going to speak to the India environment very, very accurately. I think there are, but I do think as a parent, you end up customizing for your child, right? They would teach Sitara geography. She had no idea what oceans meant and what. So you learn over time what's relevant for your child and what's not, right?
And last question is,
Sure.
how important is the communicating language? I mean, for example, you speak English, Sitara speaks English. Now what happens to a kid who doesn't speak English?
Right, so Sitara speaks Tamil, thanks to the grandparents.
Right.
She actually speaks Spanish. She somehow was able to pick it up. Over there is Spanish, English, and I'm not sure here how it works. As well. But I think we're also dealing with a lot of children who are not verbal.
Yes.
Right. So the communication skills have to extend to the sign language and other aspects of communications.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But thank you.
Anyone else? Any questions? Please feel free.
Hi, my name is Gopi and I'm part of a parent group called SCAN Special Child Assistance Network, and I guess that's the reason I'm here today. So I really don't have a question for you, but I just wanted to say, very well done with this book. I'm looking forward to reading it. It's really, I think, something with a message which has to go out. Normally when I speak to parents of a special needs child, I've spoken to hundreds over the last few years, I end up disagreeing with a lot of what they say. Okay. And in this case, it was very fortunate for me that I was in agreement with a lot of the things that you're saying in terms of how to approach things, to embrace the and not worry about the or this or that, but instead say let me do this and the other. Let me try and be as inclusive as possible. So the comment I want to make was that while you mentioned that you want this book to give inspiration to a lot of special needs parents, and I'm sure it will. I also think it's very important for this to reach a lot of the regular folks, because I think for most of the so-called normal or neurotypical people, their understanding of the special needs world is very limited. You see some movies and you get the impression which may not be exactly the right one. So understanding the journey of a family, if they cannot experience it themselves, then the best way is to actually read a book like this. So I would really support you getting this message out to a lot of regular folks. Once again, thank you and wonderful. Looking forward to read the book. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for coming, Gopi.
I'm so touched. I'm glad to be on the one where you agree and not the 100 you disagree. Right, thank you. I feel saved right there. Hey, listen, this is my first book, right? It's probably my only book, and thank you for the encouragement. I would love to spend the rest of my life just sending the message across to as many able families as possible. So I really appreciate it.
Hi.
Okay, hello.
Hi. My name is Aditya from Vidyasagar Disability School. This is my first experience coming here. Here.
Thank you, Aditya.
Thank you.
Yeah. The way speeches of you is very nice.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and the book I didn't go through it, but it was nice. But my speech itself is looking nice.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Aditya.
thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, the thing what I want to talk to you is I am also a intellectual disability. I actually openly want to talk to you is it's a technical talk I am feeling it, but I can't understand what you are saying. Sorry, I am openly talking like this.
No, happy to talk to you after the session. Happy to talk to you about it.
Yeah.
But thank you for attending.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Aditya.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
I just want to say the speech is very, very nice.
But thank you. Thank you. I was just going to make a comment before the next question, what Aditya was saying. The cover page of this book, we were thinking about what to write, what to show. So we just wanted to reflect the simplicity of her life. So this is Sitara as a child. Inside the H is her adult picture. On the left is her cane, the white cane she uses. The keyboard is because she plays piano occasionally. And then her talking watch is what she uses to tell the time. So that's really the design behind the book. And Aditya, since you like the book, I I'd like to thank Aiden and Anand here. Some of others commented as well. They take the credit for how the book came together.
I just have a question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the mic here, please. Thank you. She's just waiting.
My question is, it's pretty tough being a career woman and having a, especially, how did you manage the, if I may use the word guilt?
Guilt.
Yeah, I know you had a good support system, but it probably got a little more tricky than, I mean, all of us have this, we're working and our kids
Yeah.
are at home, we have to leave our kids even though we have you had, your party, for her party to help her, but how did you manage that part? Just curious.
No, thank you for asking. I do head up the women's forum in the companies I work at. So we have something called Worldwide Open Text Women. I think my mother can attest to this. Now you're getting into the person of Madhu, not the author. I don't generally have guilt. I just go do what I need to do. And I really don't. I do what I go need to do. And I love to convey that emotions, energy to other women. Okay, women in particular, since the question came from a woman. But if I look back, I generally don't have a guilt. If I made 2 dishes for my husband instead of 3, so big deal, it's 2.
That's nice.
And all the men in my life have supported me for that. I don't know if my brother's here. I think my sister-in-law is here. My brother made a comment one time that he said, because I have a wonderful mother-in-law, he said, at least I thought a mother-in-law will be hard on you and get you to be less feisty. You were lucky even that way. It's a very important question, and more philosophically, as gender agnostic, I think we shouldn't have guilt. Do what you can, do the best you can, but don't have guilt. Thank you.
Self-care.
Yes, self-care.
That's
But
part
look
of
at
self-care.
Easier said than done. but-
easier
Yeah,
said than
yeah.
done.
I have
Yeah.
guilt, you're
Yeah.
brand of it most of the time.
Sure.
Yeah, again, as I said, maybe I'll just elaborate. I talk about it in the book. My husband has chaperoned surgeries, and I was sitting in the office. Yeah, did I feel guilt? Yeah, yes. But did I also feel that it's okay for him to do that? Yes. Well, thank you.
Wonderful. So,
I think there's one there.
one question there. Leave the mic. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay, I'm so glad I came here and it's been absolutely interesting. So I'm a special mother and also a mother of a normal child, so I can totally relate to all that you have been saying. And I'm so glad that you have taken this time and the forum and the book to actually put it across very simply and subtly. So my small question is, I'd just like to understand a little more about the home and the lab activities, because
Sure.
there are a lot of things happening here in Chennai and of course Tamil Nadu, India. So we would also like to see how, if there are some parents taking the decision, how helpful it would be. Because right now we run a shared employment platform where we promote products made by persons with, of course here we say disabilities and special needs. So, and we find a lot of traction. So the time that they are there, say from 20 years to 40 years after whatever learning that is there and whatever skill that they have, we're just trying to see whether that can be effectively engaged.
Yeah.
Somewhere there is a little bit of productivity, so that automatically promotes good mental health for them, the caregiver, and of course the family and the extended support. So we just like to know a little bit more about the home.
Yeah, so maybe I'll just answer that, the search for the home and the home, right? So I think the attributes or the things that you look for may be very common, geography agnostic, right? So you do want to be in the spectrum of medical care. So lower medical care, medium medical care, higher medical care, and you do want to consider that. And then the physical and intellectual abilities, as you said, employable, not employable. And really thank you for the question. All of you here and your network who have the clout, the connection to do something on this cause, I think it's really important to consider the question. So I think there are a variety of levels. The care inside the home. Then I would also tell you there are many situations where the physical ability of the caregivers are very important, because a lot of the special needs adults are big, they're strong, and you need even stronger people to take care of them, right? So there is a category called the physical ability of the caretakers also to be considered. And then of course the emotionally and the socially acceptable activities. And so the way her home is constructed, which we're very lucky, is women only, 5 women, and there are not too many of those. But there are wheelchair, she's not on a wheelchair, she's on a walker. So again, that's the physical ability. There are things inside the home, there are things outside the home. She remains a vegetarian in the home, and that's unusual, right? So we prescribe what food she can eat, right? So again, if you're thinking future on how to construct these homes, how to design these homes, and provide a home away from home, we can certainly talk offline, but you do want to consider all the attributes, right? And then you commonize them, and I mean, like that's how they do it. They have small, medium, and intensive. Hers is considered to be more of an intensive care home, but with a lot of customizations.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you. I'm just going to end with a little word of thanks. So thank you so much, Madhu, for trusting
Thank you.
the Madras
Great
Reading
Association.
Company, yes,
Yeah.
with your inaugural book launch. Even though she couldn't be here today, I'm grateful to Viji for connecting us. And thank you, Anand and Aiden, for all your support. And I would like to thank my team, my dear friends who are so supportive in more ways than one. My book club who's always there for me. And thanks to Hari for clicking us all, Monalika who couldn't be here.
Yes.
And the team at E Hotel, Geeta and Shankar and Ranganathan, the whole gang. We trust you've all received a copy of the book, so please feel free to form a queue and Madhu will sign it for you.
If you want the
And
signatures.
If
not
you want the
fine.
signatures.
Yeah.
And thank you once again for braving the weather and being here today. Just give us one moment. Aiden and Anand have something to give Madhu and her mom and me too. Hari, can you take one picture of me and
A big thank you to all of you, friends, family, and you friends. Thank you.
Madhu, this is for you.
Super thanks. Yeah, thank you.
I don't know what it means.
What I done say?
Yes, that's really nice. And yeah. Please sit, Madhu, and I'm sure. Mommy, come at me. Thanks for my mom.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.